Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. This is my Quantum Break hard difficulty video walkthrough. This is Act 2, Part 2, entitled Ground Zero. We're going to be moving through this drock, which is a combination of dry dock, I assume, into one of the more trickier fights in the game, which is only tricky because the enemies have actually got a really good AI in this game. One of the things I definitely think is a pro to Quantum Break is that the enemies intelligently move forward and they put pressure on a character. One of the things a lot of games do really poorly when it comes to difficulty and their AI is they give the player too much space to control their own little zone, and they never get in any kind of threat of being put in a bad spot. Whereas I don't mind that too much in a lot of games. It is definitely something that when you introduce it, like right now I'm getting jacked from the side because he flanked me. The problem with this game is I should be dead, and I'm not. And it has nothing to do with my ability to recover like I did just then by stopping him with my abilities, putting up a shield and regenerating very quickly. It's because the damage that the enemies do just isn't high enough for a hardest difficulty. And being this close to a shotgunning heavy, how am I alive? These are the questions that go through my mind when I play this, and just imagine if I weren't playing this aggressively. Imagine if I was just sitting in a perfect spot, counter-shooting and being very defensive. It's so effective, it truly is, guys, and if you're having difficulty on this game, the best thing I can do, as far as advice, is tell you to just slow it down, put yourself in a safe, defensible position, and just keep that time vision on to know where your enemies are, and don't move forward aggressively, don't come out of cover, and you will be the safest you can be in this game. It's kind of ridiculous just how effective it is, and I like the fact that you're able to play with these different styles, but it always comes back to the same thing with me personally. When somebody flanks you on a hardest difficulty, unless you go into super elite response clutch mode, you should be dead. And you might say just then that I reacted exactly as I needed to survive that situation, and in a lot of ways I suppose I kind of did, but I still think that I was given way too much leniency, and that's one of my issues that we're going to come back to time and time again. I think this game could have been considerably more difficult, and I think it would have been fair difficulty. So many games get balance wrong. This isn't one of them. The balance in this game is terrific, but it is completely compromised by the difficulty. And you might wonder, well, Chris, what does that mean exactly? Isn't balance difficulty? And in a lot of ways it is. I would agree with that statement, but with the way I'm addressing it is, this game's balance is its encounters. There's not a single encounter on this game that I can say to you is overpowered or unrealistic or at the point where it's really putting pressure on the player to outperform themselves. There just isn't that in this game. Every single encounter has been thoroughly thought about to what it adds to the game and what it presents as a problem to the player trying to solve it. And each of them is so meticulous, it's almost too clean. And I'm not saying that I want ridiculous spawns. I'm not saying I want, stupid assortments of enemies, too many enemies, or being too close to enemies so that it's almost Murder City before you've had a chance to do anything. I'm not asking for any of those things. But what I do think was necessary is the parameters on how much damage you take needed to be steeper. And the game knows how to do damage in very rare moments. Do you know the toughest thing in this game? Stopping objects that are moving erratically in time. If you don't stop them, they will kill you in a second. I've got a video that I might share where I'm going to name it something like the hardest enemy in Quantum Break, and it's me running towards a door and wanting to press B to do the shield to stop it. But as you get closer to these doors, for some reason B doesn't work. It's almost like they've got a dampening field, so that you don't do anything, and you run into it like an idiot, face planting. And that's exactly what I did a few times in the recording of this guide. And they killed me before I had a chance to do anything. I couldn't, react and dodge away. I couldn't do anything. I was dead. So the game absolutely knows how to kill you. But for some reason, the enemies don't. It's really, really confusing. And as of right now, folks, I've beat the game, completely recorded it and everything. And the only time that I honestly felt like I was in any kind of danger was the last boss. Because the last boss has the ability to put you to one shot away from death, and there's enemies in the room who can finish you off. And if you get put in a bad spot, you can actually die. But it's a fundamental failing of a game if I have to get to the final boss to feel like I'm going to die. And it just doesn't make sense to me. I find it really strange, but I've been kind of talking about difficulty quite a lot in these past few videos, so let's talk about some features that are present and some that are lacking that are not necessarily towards the game's challenge, as we do a couple of environmental puzzles here, and we listen to the exposition between the characters who, hats off to the people who act in this game. I think they did a great job with casting. I think the actors and actresses did fantastic jobs. Everything about it has got this feel that I really enjoyed. And right now, this is one of those moments where you could probably kill yourself when using the time ability, because you're meant to reverse time, but I thought maybe I could jump up it. You can't. The game is kind of particular with certain things. That is one of them. But the way this game utilises the notion of time breaking down and some of the platforming is really interesting. It's got all kinds of manipulations of certain features, and it's got a lot of very visually impressive and demanding looking environments which are great to look at. But when it comes to playing in a lot of them, I think like they didn't take it as far as perhaps the concept wanted to be taken. There's a lot of this game that feels to me like they had these really good ideas and they built this really good engine, but then they didn't end up coming through with all those crazy things for whatever reason. Maybe it was budget reasons, time restrictions, manpower, or just unrealistic feasibility. Maybe it killed the frame rate, I don't know. But there are moments when the time is happening in this game which really just sparked my creativity and made me think, well, what if we could do this, or what if we could do this? Oh, this is interesting too. Up here is a great piece of cover. You can do this entire sequence without moving if you want to. I'm going to go down and be a little reckless to make this a little bit more interesting. Something funny to note as well. Do you notice how I'm stood between a panel of wood? This wood doesn't break for some reason. Oh, this is me changing the aim assist, finally, turning it back. And you're probably going to see some difference in the aiming immediately, because the aim assist is so incredibly powerful. But you can stay up there, guys, and you'll have no issue, but I decided to come down here and be a little crazier. But if you're wondering what I mean when I'm talking about those time powers, there's an instance in this game where there's a boat crashing through a bridge. There's parts where there's a train coming through a wall. The cars are slamming into each other and then resetting, because whenever you move the time displacement, it goes back to where it originally was. It's this kind of really cool mechanic. See that just then? That is the difference of the auto aim, putting it directly on center mass when I hold the trigger. But do you see how I can't shoot him in the face? That's what I was trying to do then, guys. I was fighting the auto aim to hit him in the face, but I couldn't get it because of the way that the gravitational pull is. And I've already discussed, you know, the pros and cons of auto aim and what you sacrifice, so I'm not going to go back over that. But right now is two heavies, and this is probably the most questionable point in this walkthrough. So I try shooting that to get some damage. I slow him, but there's a heavy to my left, moving towards me, who I have no idea is there. I can't hear him. He just shot me then, and I didn't react. What am I doing? Then he shot me again, and wow. And then he puts me to no life, and I'm still alive. So, for anybody who is putting a pretty valid counter-arguments to a lot of my observations on the difficulty, not that I think anybody will, because I think you'll agree with me in a lot of ways. And that's not arrogance, it's just the game is very simple. Just a show of hands, folks. Who thinks I should have died then? Because I know I do. There is no way an advanced enemy, an elite enemy in the grand scheme of things, with a shotgun that close to me who gets 3 shots off. Look, I'm like, I can't believe it that I'm alive. And it's one of those things where when I'm recording a guide, you know, if something like that was in it, I would probably restart the checkpoint just to not have that happen again because it looks sloppy. But I think it outlines just one of the grave flaws of Quantum Break, and you might not see it as a flaw because some people don't care, and I understand that completely. But in a game that has almost no replay value outside of the choices in the narrative than the collectibles, you better make that hardest difficulty worth playing, guys, and they really haven't. So much so that I think I'm going to tweet them and they'll probably never see it, but I need to ask, because I put my own reputation and my own integrity out on my Twitter, and, you know, I'm not exactly God or anybody, I'm not this person that you should hold to high esteem or anything, but when I say something that I believe in, I stick to it, even if it turns out that I'm, you know, like a Trump supporter and just a complete idiot who should be potentially never listened to, which I don't really know too much about the American political scheme at the moment. I just know that Donald Trump, for every single time I've seen him speak, I've disagreed with everything he said, and Using Mexicans to build a wall to keep Mexicans out seems like a very interesting thing to sell to people, yet somebody's voting for him, which is terrifying enough. But that's politics, and I don't really do that too much. I like shooting people in video games and talking over it. As I was saying, though, before I got derailed, I put out on my Twitter in response to somebody asking me what I thought about the difficulty of the game. And I can't quite remember what this individual said, but I said, don't worry about the difficulty, I have complete faith in Remedy. And I did! And I was wrong. I was completely wrong. And it's really sad. So, I don't know, maybe there'll be a patch. Maybe there's a new difficulty coming in like post-release coverage. Maybe there's DLC difficulty. I really don't know. But as it stands, really strange to me. But I was talking about time manipulation and how they've got these elements that are in the game that I thought were going to be a big emphasis and they kind of weren't. You know, this notion of being able to freeze time and have these stutters is such a great gimmick. And right now, we're in a gimmick. This is a stutter that's frozen time, and we're fighting an enemy that's classed as, I think they're called strikers. They can use the same time-moving abilities that we have, so they can dodge, and they can exist inside these stutters just like we can. And these are the most fun enemy to fight in the game, because they will rush you like that dude did, and they will put you in all kinds of different pressure and interesting situations. And there are two ways to kill them. You can destroy their backpack, which just freezes them and makes them obsolete, or you can kill them by just shooting the tits off. The running attack will work once you get it, but you don't necessarily need it. And I'm choosing to use the carbine, the single shot awesome gun, because this will kill them in about 2 headshots if you can get it, and you can hit them with about 3 to 4 center mass and put them down that way. But these are a really cool fight, these enemies, and I wish there was more of them. I really do. I think they're the best aspect of the game. Which leads me to, I keep derailing my own topics and I apologise, but I really wanted this game to have bosses, and I wanted the bosses to be somebody who was like you. I wanted it to be a 1v1 against a guy using all the time powers, and I thought it could have been fascinating, you know, really, really cool and interesting, where he does a certain power and you have to use the bullet shield to stop it, and then he has a cooldown or a rest period where you get to shoot him. He goes into a super evasive maneuver where he's dashing about, and you know he's going to dash and dodge all your bullets, but he's going to come close and melee you. So when he does that, you have to dash at the right time and then counter him, and there could have almost been this chess game or rock, paper, scissors essential of countering a time move with a time move to get your opening, and it could have been really tense and cool and high octane and fast and interesting, and it never happens. It never happens. You know, I spent the entire game praying that Paul Serene at the end was essentially going to be Neo, and you were going to do Neo and Morpheus fighting, and it was just going to be a hand-to-hand crazy fight where you could dodge and all kinds of cool stuff happening, and you had to just beat him down, and it got messy, and it went through time, and it went through geometry, and all kinds of shit was happening. Never happens. And I apologise if that's a spoiler, but don't get your hopes up, guys, for any kind of these big ideas, because they're just never there, and it sucks, it really does. As much as I'm going to defend this game because I really do like it, a lot of the things I was thinking never happen. As I was saying with time powers, I thought there was going to be moments where we'd maybe manipulate water, because everything's freezing and stopping and you have the ability to stop things. I thought maybe you'd shoot a fire extinguisher and the jets of oxygen coming out would be frozen and you could climb on it, and then there was a pipe adjacent that you shot water streams out, you climb that. I thought there'd be all kinds of interesting uses of it. I thought you'd be able to use the time to affect enemies in the middle of a fight rather than just dropping a crane on them or, you know, dropping a box on them. I thought there would be valid ways to interact with the world, and additionally I thought the enemies would do the same to us, and it just never happens. It never ups the ante in that way. And then you have a mechanic such as this, which is the time-lapse narrative tool that they use, where they do this amazing real-time time-lapse of a period of months, and everything stutters and moves and flits about as it has in that time, and it's a really cool mechanic that looks fantastic, but it's 100% narrative-based. You do no fighting in the stutters, in the time-lapse sequences. There's no engagements in them. They don't affect gameplay in any real way. They're just a very pretty cake with lots of icing, but that's all it is, and you can never truly eat it. And there's nothing wrong with that, because I think every game needs, you know, a nice bit of diversity in what its approach is. It's just a lot of the gameplay moments I was hoping for these things that never happened. In a lot of ways too, because the limit of it is your creativity, and this is a very creative game in moments. Some of those platforming sequences where you're climbing on cars and they're slamming around and stuff, all of that could have been easily used in gameplay. They could have had an ability that froze time and then sped time up. And you could have literally fired the freeze at the car to stop a car, even though it's not moving technically, and then you could have given it all this false momentum by starting time again, and it just propelled it forward, and you could have done all kinds of strange things, but it's kind of just not there. And the stuff that is there is fun. There's a lot of fun to be had. The second playthrough of this game I just did to record this, I had a ton of fun, guys. I really did. In fact, I think I appreciated it more now I tempered my expectations. Because I feel like the game is the first 2 parts to a 3-part act, to like a 3-act show. I felt like it was too short. When you look at the gameplay, there's just not enough of it. Most of the gameplay is what we're doing now. It's traversal, it's exploratory, and it's an excuse to give us narrative. And I am somebody who really likes narrative, and I love narrative games. You know, I like walking simulators, which is a term people like to call those adventure games that don't have all that much gameplay in them, or traditional gameplay anyway. Oh, this is weird too. Watch this. So I'm freezing these guys and I'm shooting them in armor, so that, you know, it makes sense to take a few rounds. I think they take a few too fucking many, if you ask me, but the game never gives you a melee. A traditional melee just doesn't exist. You can use this super slow motion run attack and then press B and do these fancy punches that are dynamic, and he'll do different ones depending on where you are in the environment. It's amazing, but it's specific to that move, and if you don't have that move, you can't do it. So you get close to people like that, and they can punch you, but you can't punch them. And I checked the controls to see if there was some kind of, you know, melee equivalent, and I couldn't find it. So maybe it's my ignorance, but it seems like the game doesn't give you an option up close, which is strange. Why can't you just bukkake a guy with a time blast? You know, it would make sense to just get rid of him or something. Anything, just butt him with the gun. Do a kick, do a low kick. Doesn't matter, just, you know, get in there. So I just picked up a time power here. We're going to look at my abilities for the people who want to follow my exact path. I just got the maximum focus for that ability, so that should hopefully come in handy. I really like the idea of focus in this game. Has to be said though, for me as a player, I think the shoot dodging in Max Payne is way more interesting than the dodging in this game. Just because it felt cool, and in this, the dodge is great. It's the utility of the dodge in this game is way better than anything in any Max Payne, because it makes it super safe. But the focus afterwards is great. It looks beautiful and stylized, but I just don't think it's as satisfying as seeing those bullets go through the air the way they did way back when I first played, you know, Roscoe Street Station and Alex. Like, such a classic game, man. I love that game so much. But a little bit more dynamics here of dialogue as we push forward through this environment, and I do think that there's an interesting measure of pace here, because a lot of games would just be sequence after sequence after sequence after sequence. This game doesn't do that. Remedy have never done that, and I really appreciate the reserve that they show for that. It's a very, very intelligent and graceful approach to game design, and I appreciate it heavily. And that's all of my issues with this game considered. I think the pacing of the game, in as much as, you know, encounter, something different, encounter, exploration, I think it's graceful. I think it's really, really beautiful. It's such a soulful touch in an industry that often lacks that completely. And just look at Halo 5. Can you remember in my Halo 5 walkthrough when I was on sections and I'm like, this is the point where this feels like I'm just shooting dudes in the face, room after room after room. And that's what Halo is, but it's not that overt. You know, you're not meant to notice that. Oh, by the way, this is one of the hardest enemies in the game. You see him? Absolutely terrifying, that piece of scaffolding. He will kill you more than the last boss if you let him. That thing killed me twice. Believe it. Ridiculous. But this is an example of time breaking down and everything being a legitimate threat. The geometry, all kinds of crazy time infractions and what have you. I think this stuff is great. I would have loved to see some of this creativity happening during the fights. And the only thing I can think of is maybe the balance was way off and it was easy to die from getting touched by a falling piece of geometry. Or maybe it killed the frame rate. Because I think back to Transformers Devastation, which is probably a really strange thing to say, but stick with me. Can you remember that bit when you're in the core, and the core's sending out all those abilities, and those hexagons are raising from the floor, and all the environment's shifting and changing, and you're getting blown by the wind, and it's a super weird fight? I didn't much like that fight, but I appreciated that there was all that weird shit going on that made it different. This is a game where the central mechanic is making weird shit happens, and almost every firefight you get in is a little bit too tame for my tastes. And I would be the first person to criticise too, if there had been random pieces of scaffolding that if you touch them at a certain point during a fight, you instantly die. I would have gone nuts. Like there, if you don't jump on that bit, you will fall and die every time. You have to jump. If you try and sprint across it just by holding forward on the analog, it kills you, and then the load time can be upwards of a minute if you get unlucky. The loading in this game is anywhere from between 10 seconds to 10 minutes. It's bizarre. And the only thing I can think of there, folks, is that it hides loading in cutscenes. So if you skip a cutscene that was doing a heavy load for the game, you sit through a lot. But this is the final fight of the part, and it's against a bunch of people who can survive inside of stutters thanks to their harnesses. So I like to hug the bottom of this ship, and I like to flank left and right. Here come these strikers, so make sure you prioritise those guys. If they rush you and you see them rush you, you can either dodge out of the way, or you can press B to stop them from punching you, and the freeze shield will knock them back, and you can counter them. It's a really cool mechanic, and I like it a lot, but there's not enough enemies that force it to be used that way. Like, where was the melee enemy that comes for you? The super aggressive, super fast melee dude who's lethal, where was he? Who puts pressure and forces you out of cover? He doesn't exist. You know? When we look at the enemy types in this game, you have the standard flunkies, which turn up. You have an armoured shotgun guy who just kind of turn up. You have the armoured heavy gunner guys who just kind of turn up. You've got the snipers who are rarely used, and then you've got the strikers. That's it. That is all your archetypal enemies. And it's not enough, and there's not enough diversity to it to make the game challenging. There's an interesting topic I'm going to be discussing later on, which involves the shifters, which you probably might not know too much about these if you've not played the game, but if you have, you'll know quite a lot about this idea of an enemy from the future at the end of time that is almost unstoppable and incredibly dangerous sounding. And the game does a fantastic job of almost portenting that you're going to meet one and fight one, and then it never turns up. It's a 100% false tragedy. It never happens. It's all the build-up, it's all the gag and no vomit, and I think that's one of the largest failings of the game as well. But I'm going to talk about that when we get a bit closer to it. If you think I'm dwelling on some of the criticisms too much here, guys, please be aware that there is so much good in this game, and there's so much fun and interesting stuff, but a lot of it is obvious. The game looks beautiful. It's got all kinds of great things going for it, all kinds of really sweet touches, but when it comes down to the minutiae of the mechanics and the gameplay, that's where a couple of these holes appear, and that's the reason why I'm shining light on them, because to me, some of that is more fascinating than, you know, how beautiful the slow motion time effects are, because I've seen that a million times, and this is one of the best implementations of it, but it's not that interesting to really go into and critique, whereas mechanically, this game has got some super questionable stuff in it, some super great stuff in it, some super weird stuff, and just the plain goofy. So I'm going to try and look at all aspects as I can, because just because I really like this game doesn't mean it is above the law of scrutiny.